Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the people's channel, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community and all of the interwebs. This is BitBoy Crypto. No channel works harder to keep you in the know when it comes to crypto. It's Around the Blockchain. We come to you Monday through Friday at 5:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking to your favorite guests about your favorite topic. Yet again, today is no exception. We're going to start on the top right. We have one of the largest water drinkers in all of the crypto space. That's right. We're talking to MacNCheeasy. He always starts his day with a fresh 8 ounces. Then on the bottom right, we have Joe Parys. I like to call him the low-cap gem hunter, king of the world. And we maybe got a couple more weeks. We can see it turn to twilight in his background. Always fun to check out. Then on the bottom left, we have king of all the soybean investors. That's right. We're talking about Tom Crown. Make sure you sub to his newsletter. Then on the top left, we have host of the best crypto morning stream in the entire universe. That's right. We're talking about Ben Armstrong. But today we're talking Bitcoin inflows, XRP lawsuit. Where you at, XRP Army? Hit that like button. Also, Tron's contracts. That's right. We're talking to old Justin, not Justin Castardo, not Justin Williams, old Justin's son from Tron. So interesting stuff going on with that. We're going to do a deep dive. But before we get into our topics, everybody, you know what time it is. It is time to check out the markets and what are they doing? I'm seeing a little green, everybody. All right, looks like we have Bitcoin above 38.5. Right now, it's up almost 2% on the daily. Ethereum above 2,500, still below 26. It's up 3%. Look at that Terra Luna just on a run, up 12%. Polkadot up 5%. So we're seeing a little bit of green action here. Now, Tom, you're our TA guy. I'm going to bring it to you. We have Bitcoin. How do you feel about his chances getting above 40 in any kind of near-term range here? Or is it looking like we might have another push down to that 35, 34, 36 range?
Yeah, I think 40 is well within the range we've been seeing over the last few weeks, kind of like 44 to 34-ish range. I think we could easily see in the 40s this week. It's not really significant until we see a break over, say, 45,000. So I don't think that that's hopium. The charts are not looking great as they haven't. We're really just consolidating more of the same boring price action that we've seen. So it's a wait and find out situation.
All right, well, we shall find out. But let's talk a little Bitcoin inflows and outflows since we are talking about Bitcoin's price here. The inflows have been a net negative since July. This is the amount of Bitcoin coming into exchanges. So more people are hodling than selling at the moment. So since July, we've seen a net difference of the inflows versus outflows of 43,000 Bitcoin. We're talking over a billion, I think around 2.1 billion. Someone check the math on that. But we had outflows of 253,000 with Bitcoin inflows of 207,000. So we're seeing a lot more Bitcoin, you know, just kind of sitting on the sidelines. Now, MacNCheeasy, you know, a lot of people, they may be wondering, you know, what does this matter in exchange inflow of a coin and outflow of a coin? You know, just tell me when Lambo. For those who, you know, maybe newer to the market, can't wrap their head around the supply and demand economics, why are, you know, these differences so alarming, or I would say positive for Bitcoin's price?
If you look at the customer journey to off-ramp crypto into a traditional fiat currency, most of the time it starts and ends in a centralized exchange. There are other avenues to off-ramp your crypto, like Bitcoin ATMs that I've worked with for over 3 years now, but like the primary one is centralized exchanges. So now going through this journey, right? So a customer has to take their Bitcoin and then bring it onto an exchange and then to sell it. So if your crypto is already there and available to sell, it's an easier process, right? So it's a one-step process. Whereas if it's off an exchange, now you actually have to transfer it and send it to actually then off-ramp it into a fiat currency. So DEEZY, to your point, right, why is this maybe potentially a little bit more bullish for crypto? Well, this means that people are also, the currency isn't on the exchange. Now, a thing that I do want to note for the inflow, the outflow, two things. One thing is, even if it's a net neutral of inflow on Bitcoin, the total circulating supply, the ratio of Bitcoin on the exchange would mean it decreases. Reason being, every 10 minutes with an increased supply in Bitcoin in circulation due to Bitcoin mining, you're actually seeing a greater percentage of Bitcoin in the circulating market off exchanges. So even a neutral is a positive. Now, number two, why else could there be a reasoning for a net outflow? Well, there's been a lot of conversations of government restrictions, sanctions, and things of that nature. So if it is on a centralized exchange, and what we've seen with the past conversations with Russia and about restricting clients on these centralized exchanges from using and selling their crypto, if it's off the exchange, you don't necessarily have to fall victim to these centralized exchanges. So people who want to hold their keys, they are taking it off the exchanges. So I think there's a bunch of things to note when you're looking at the total amount of Bitcoin sitting in exchanges.
All right, and if you like what the people are saying, make sure you hit +1 in chat. Chat's letting us know the sneakerheads are saying those are some cement 4s in the background you got there, Max. So
those are cement 4s.
They already are liking 4s. You. I almost spent 200 on some LeBrons over the weekend. I didn't do it. It would have been the most I ever paid for tennis shoes for sure. But Ben, one of the reasons we aren't seeing these inflows so high is we haven't had that long-term holder capitulation event. That kind of sets off every, terrible bear market. But these cycles, they're kind of changing. Do you think that we will still see that long-term holder, just the amount just get plummeted? Or are the cycle norms just out the window these days?
Well, you can have a snowball. I mean, I know that's like a real simple comparison, but when you look at a snowball, it gains speed over time and size as it rolls through the snow. The long-term holder are very similar to that. When you look at the percentage of Bitcoin that has never moved, the amount of Bitcoin that has not moved in 10 years, which is pretty cool that we've got a 10-year, there have been people holding Bitcoin long enough to satisfy that 10-year requirement. Every single cycle we get, not every year, because in bear market, you don't add long-term holders, but in every bull market, every cycle, you start to residually add more and more and more to that number. Now, these long-term holders in general, they do not sell. Like at this point, so what was a long-term holder in 2017, for instance? Well, I mean, the most possible would be 9 years, but of course, pretty much like only Satoshi in the beginning and very, very small number of people. It wasn't until 2010, 2011 when people started understanding what Bitcoin was, and still was a very, very, very small group. So in 2017, it only been around for 9 years. We didn't have a 10-year, long-term holder supply to look at. And when you look at these numbers on a chart, I wish I had the chart to show you, is that over time, it's getting to be a wider band that fits that classification. So I don't think at this point, any of those, I mean, I'm sure there'll be one or two people, but the long-term holders at this point, they are not selling no matter what happens at this point. I do not believe.
All right, Joe, I'm going to bring it to you while we still have the sun shining on that dome of knowledge of yours. With these long-term holder numbers, a lot of times, when it hasn't moved for a long time, that kind of signifies seller exhaustion. Do you think we have reached that point of seller exhaustion, kind of related to Ben's point? Are more people just long-term hodlers now? Or is there still, maybe whether a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, is there still going to be that crazy event where everyone just kind of gives up hope?
It's a really good question, DEEZY, and thanks for having me back on the show. Ben and the Bit Squad, honored to be here. And, I'm actually more excited now than ever before because of, I just see there's so much more opportunity because the prices are so much lower than they were. But are we going to get that one big red candle that scares everybody and it goes down to, people are calling for 20,000, 15,000, 10,000? Is it going to come? I personally do not think it's going to come for a few different reasons. Number one, everyone expects it to go there now. And typically when everyone's thinking the same thing, it kind of does the opposite. Now, there are a lot of geopolitical events that are happening right now to where anything can happen, right? So you always do need to have that in the back of your head. But when everyone's thinking, oh, 20,000 for sure now, 20,000 for sure. Well, what happened in the summer? Everyone thought 20,000 for sure. And then boom, big green candle the other way. All the shorts got liquidated and off we went, right? So I'm kind of feeling more now, just a gut feel, that, and the on-chain data is showing us the truth. I mean, more people are hodling, they're not, selling. And if you really look at this from a tax perspective, I look at Michael Saylor and I really love what he's doing. He says he's never going to sell. Why? Because if he ever needed money, he'd just borrow against it. And we didn't have this 10 years ago, right? When people got into Bitcoin, we didn't have this, CeFi, DeFi kind of stuff going on where you could just buy Bitcoin, let it just, outperform the rest of the market and then borrow against it. That right there, to me, is a game changer, and why potentially we're not seeing as much sell pressure, because it creates a taxable event. And also it's, something that a lot of people are kind of warming up to. So that's kind of my feeling at the moment.
That's a good point. I think there is some to be said about the tax event. And I mean, imagine if you had 100 Bitcoin, 10 years ago, moving 10 isn't really going to be a taxable event. These days, moving 10, China spot trade, that's a huge liability. Now, Tom, I'm going to bring it to you. Speaking on TA, we're talking about long-term holders versus short-term holders. We're talking about, net inflows versus net outflows on these exchanges. When it comes to reading the charts, do you put any weight to those type of metrics, to those types of Glassnode charts where, it does kind of give you those underlying fundamentals? Or do you just 100%, I'm a strictly price action TA guy?
Yeah, well, when we look at on-chain metrics and things like that, I believe they should be calculated into how we view the space. But I really do believe that typically when people are looking at charts, they're thinking, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen in the next 4 hours? And those on-chain metrics are not going to be reflective. You can't look at them under a microscope. They're a much broader view of what's going on in the market. As Ben has said, the longer you go back, the more diamond these hands become. People who got into Bitcoin at $1 are not fazed by a $69,000 to $30,000 drop. They've seen it go up and down thousands of percents, retrace 85, 90%, whatever, over and over again. These hands aren't going to fold. They would have folded already. And that isn't because everyone has diamond hands that's been in the space. It's that everyone who didn't is gone. Those people have already folded their hand and gotten out. So the on-chain metrics are definitely something I pay attention to, but that's going to be a much broader view of the market. When we look at charts, they're not going to be reflected by it. And I always kind of find it a little silly that people try to make that connection. I think the exchange reserves, or how much Bitcoin balance is on exchange, is important and maybe more impactful to the shorter term than other metrics, because that is the available supply at any given time to be sold. You can't sell a Bitcoin on exchange if it's not on exchange. So to see it dwindling off slowly over time, I think is the best scenario. That's pushing for that liquidity crunch, and we're still waiting for that to play out.
Okay. I like that. It does make sense. It does kind of tell you the direction, but when you're looking at 15-minute candles, 20-minute candles, 24-minute candles, probably more of what's happening 5 years from now, or, when it comes to short term versus long term. All right. Well, let's get into the next topic, and XRP. Where's the XRP fam? I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe if you're not already, and also make sure you check out all the guests that we do have on this channel. But XRP Army, let us know if you're in here in the chat. We'll maybe read out one of your questions. Now, the SEC, coming after crypto isn't anything new, but there have been some developments. There's been a couple cryptic quotes going by, some of these people. A lot of people are saying, maybe it doesn't look like the SEC is going to win. People are kind of, flip-flopping on their predictions here, and a lot of speculation, but we're seeing some XRP accumulation. The accumulation of December 2021 has not been seen since November to December of 2020. $1.2 billion of XRP was purchased in December, and we've been warning you about this for months. A lot of insiders, a lot of whales been scooping up some of this cheap XRP over the last quarter or so. Ben, we got to bring it to you first. You're the ride or die XRP person. Everyone loves it, for better or worse. I know the community definitely appreciates it. We see it at all the meetups, all the XRP people. You say, who in here loves XRP? A lot of people love to raise their hand. So, love the meetups here. What is your current take of this XRP lawsuit? I mean, I know obviously if it ends now, we're probably going to get some pretty fat green candles, but do you have any I'm not asking any kind of time predictions, but what's the temperature of the room so far?
Do you want the exact date it's going to end?
I want the exact date and the price target. No,
Yeah,
no, no.
exact date, price target, and also the color of the suit of the lawyer, the lawyers and the judge. I can go ahead and give you that. So here's the thing. Since November through the first part of February, we got nothing. We got absolutely nothing from this case. And, that was very shortly after the time when I was told it should be over, and it didn't end at that time. And, it seemed like it just all went completely silent and dormant. Nothing happened. There was one date in November that got delayed even. It didn't even come to fruition to be an important date, the discovery date that got pushed to the end of February. But now we're finally starting to see a lot of moving parts. And I got to be honest with you, I just feel like I blame the end of the year, the pandemic, the end of the year, all those situations for this not getting finished, on time. And not just not finished on time, because that's a separate issue, really. The fact is, we got no information for months about this case. Like, all the XRP articles that we covered were about what they're doing with ODL and RippleNet and the technology and, maybe some, things in the orbit of the case, but no new developments. The fact that we're seeing developments, you got Brad Garlinghouse now saying, he thinks it should be over pretty soon. You have Jeremy Hogan saying he believes it'll be over in between August and November. Some people calling for the summer. Hey, one guy's even saying it's over now. So we'll see what happens there on that front. That would certainly be nice. But this is the first time in a long time that I think there is a lot of hope that this will get done relatively soon.
All right. Now, Joe, talking about hope, a lot of people, they have these targets for XRP where they would like to go to, and there's a lot of calls of $5. A lot of people just want to see it above $1 again. Is there any possible chance XRP can moon again and reach new all-time highs without this case settling?
I mean, I don't know without the case settling. I think the whole entire cryptocurrency market would have to moon in order for that to happen. And we've seen the entire cryptocurrency market moon the last couple of months up until, 69,000. And XRP did move up to a couple dollars, but it seems to be like on its own timetable, right? It kind of seems to be like doing its own thing, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Personally, I do own a little bit of XRP, and the reason why is because when it does moon, and if it does moon, should I say, I kind of have really bad FOMO. I want to be a part of it, right? And look, I'm not putting all my chips to the middle with XRP, especially, with the risk, but I will say that there is a greater reward than for higher risks, right? So I'm definitely the high risk guy, right? And I do think that XRP is maybe a little bit of a higher risk just because of all of the unknown. But at this time, it might not be, a bad thing to really do your research and study the project. I think so many people don't understand the little nuances behind all of these projects, and then all of a sudden the coin moons, and then they're trying to chase the pump. Where, XRP has been trading sideways and traditionally trades sideways for years, and then all of a sudden it moons out of nowhere. And so, I've been talking about this project on my channel for quite a while and been telling people, look, anything can happen at any time. Do your research, but also be prepared for the ups and the downs. So that's kind of where I'm at with XRP. But from what I'm seeing in the article, it's going to take longer. These things take, forever, unfortunately. But it's looking more positive for XRP than negative. So that's always, a good thing if you're an XRP holder.
Yeah, I too have a little on KuCoin, and I'm just kind of with you. If and when it moons, I want to be on this roller coaster. I don't want to be looking on the sidelines and then FOMO in, because it could happen. Some cryptics release at 2 a.m. You wake up, you miss the pump already. Now, Mac, I kind of want to bring up what Ben said. Brad Garlinghouse, he's saying it's going to be over soon. Jeremy Hogan, he's saying August or November of this year. So we have a big divide in what these people's timelines are. Do you think that these people, this is the timeline that they believe? Or do you think there's maybe a little bit of they're trying to, maybe message something to the markets, whether it's fear or whether it's, hey, this is, not be fearful. What do you think is why is there a disconnect here?
I think in crypto, there's always other things in play because there's always a direct financial correlation with the price of an asset for a lot of people, a lot of the people involved. So I think there always is a little bit more to the story. And for something like a timeline, I mean, people, they could truthfully think this will be when it ends, but it's very difficult because end of the day, there's a lot of things that have to come into place, and there's a lot of like jurisdiction that takes time, and it's not necessarily black and white. I kind of want to piggyback on what Joe said in regards to kind of XRP and like how he was describing it. At least for me, it sounded like a little bit of like an asymmetric risk opportunity, in a sense that the prices has been somewhat suppressed of late. And this price suppression, if you are bullish on XRP, full disclosure, I don't necessarily, I don't own any, but if you are bullish on it, the risk profile there is, the price is where it's at, but it has an extremely high upside. So that it does have the potential for an asymmetric risk in terms of a price speculation. And also kind of with the FOMO, for me, like when I was first really getting into crypto and I was really getting into it, the decision that made me go even more was like, all right, I'd rather this thing go to zero, but I have my chips in the table, than not having my chips on the table and it mooning. Like, I would rather that scenario. And for a lot of my decision making, for better or worse, I just think about the two different scenarios: the scenario where I bet on my conviction, or the scenario where I don't bet on my conviction. And then I'll go with the one where I'm just more content with my decision making. So that's just something for me. When I decided to go all in on crypto, it was like, I don't want to be on the sidelines. So that I think that's just a lot of it when looking at these different speculative assets.
Yeah, if I am riding that ride, my arm's going to be in the air. I'm going to be going wee the whole way up. Now, Tom, I might, if you have the chart, I might ask you to bring it up. I'm looking at the 1 year chart right here on XRP. Basically everybody who bought a year ago is in profit, unless you paper handed, just there in the beginning. But we're talking about its potential to moon. And here you see it, it looked like it dipped down to about 42 even, and then blasts off to $1.80. So we're looking at over a 4x, kind of consolidating here, kind of looking boring. What are the charts telling you when it comes to XRP? Is this something with that, nonlinear upside potential that maybe is worth getting a little exposure to?
I think I was asked this question a few months ago when I was on here, and it's really in the exact same position it was then, ranging between what we've seen, like $1.50 and 50 cents ish, around there. The chart's not telling me much. We see the highs have been descending, the lows relatively flat. There's just not a lot to take away from this. And I think last time I was here, I said this is probably going to come down to the decision that's made. They're likely to see a volatile move, whether it's positive or negative, after the SEC settles or whatever the result is. Something I do want to say is we're seeing a lot of this go on now. I don't know when this is going to settle. I think it almost is a little foolish to guess. There's so many gears moving, so many moving pieces of this. But what we are seeing is a trend here in the world that we're getting clarity, regulatory clarity. I made a video earlier today. I released it on the executive order that's coming out, and a lot of people view these as negative. And I kind of viewed the XRP case originally as negative, and I've seen over time that this is going to be in the long term a positive. We have no regulatory clarity. Any regulatory clarity, whether it's unfavorable or favorable, is an improvement from nothing. And that doesn't really go along the lines of like the crypto spirit, and I can acknowledge that. However, we need to let these people try to regulate it so that we can watch them fail. They're going to come up with something. It's not going to work the way they want, and that's really going to show the strength of cryptocurrency and why we're here. So good luck guessing when this will be over or how it will end. But we're going to, at the end of the day, end up with some kind of clarity that we don't have now, and I see that as a positive.
All right, if we do go back to the chart real quick, just a real quick question, Tom. You kind of said the lows are kind of relatively flat, and we have, highs that are heading lower. Is this what you consider a descending triangle, and what does that mean to someone trading?
It's not the most bullish outlook when we go to a big pattern to have a flat bottom and a descending high scenario. It's not a very bullish pattern. Yeah, but it's not a perfectly flat bottom. I think you could even call this maybe a symmetrical triangle, which doesn't really have a bias for breakout. This is honestly exactly what I would have expected if you were to tell me that the XRP would be engaged with the SEC for a long period of time. waiting for this deliberation to end. This is probably the pattern I would have like guessed, is very uncertain, not really leaning in either direction, just kind of making the market wait, allowing people to fold their positions or open new positions, and not really giving them opportunity to enter or exit with much volatile change.
Okay, well, bearish on flat bottoms. I hate them. I know that. All right, let's go to the third topic here. We're talking Tron. That's right, old Justin's son. Tron has been, making some splashes volume-wise lately. It's looking about 60% of its transactions are actually smart contract volume. So not someone, sending from one wallet to another or any kind of exchange. A lot of smart contract movement here. 1.7 billion triggered smart contracts. So basically 61% of all their transactions here. The price is pretty low. I'll look at it in a second. It looks like it's around 6 cents when I last looked this morning. So it's not making many moves, but it was the third most purchased coin on Binance Smart Chain over the last few months. So not a small chain. We're talking about BSC. So not, we're not talking about some ghost chain that does nothing. We're talking about some serious volume here. Now, Ben, I kind of want to look at it before I ask you this. Do you see any kind of breakout potential when it comes to Tron? What are you hearing, in the industry? Are people getting excited about it? I can pull it up right here. We're going to look at the 1 year. So we, maybe not so much an all-time high, but right now it is looking pretty boring. It's not really doing much. It looked like it was touching 16. If we look at the all-time, we blasted all the way to about a quarter back in the day, but higher lows. I'm seeing some higher lows. Do you see this returning to those former glory days, or is it just going to be, slow and steadily down and to the right?
Well, CryptoFace loves it. CryptoFace loves Tron. He said it on the show one time recently. I am not a big fan of Tron. I think that I get I feel some type of way, I guess, about projects that I have way too much hope of in the beginning, and maybe too much hope in the team, and too much hope, and then they just completely dash it. And that's what Tron did throughout the bear market. It started out like 26 cents, I think it was, in 2017 it peaked at, and then it was like 1 or 2 cents, like the whole bear market. Actually, it pumped up to 1 cent, and that was a big day. I think that was in like probably January of 2019 or something like that. So look, Tron has just been a disappointing project since it's been around. But they did have a change in leadership. Supposedly, Justin Sun is becoming an ambassador for I think the UN or something like that. But I've also been told that he's not really, like, he is going to be that, but he's also still going to be pulling the strings from behind closed doors. I just don't ever see the Tron ecosystem really blowing up. I don't think it will ever be in the conversation with the top layer ones. I think in 15 years from now, nobody will know what Tron is.
Okay. Now, Joe, you're kind of one of our top Binance Smart Chain gaming experts. You always got that new hottest gaming token. You always know, a lot of times they don't do everything on Ethereum because it gets too costly. Do you see any gaming projects or any kind of indie studios doing anything with Tron, or do you kind of agree with Ben that, maybe 15 years from now, it'll be a relic of the past?
Well, I just want to say that when I got started, about 1.5 years ago, really diving back into crypto, Tron was one of the first places that I went. And it was a really interesting experience because from a user standpoint, it was fantastic. And I can kind of see why CryptoFace may like Tron. It's super cheap, high throughput, very fast. And it, like, from a user perspective, it was fantastic. Also, we had a really nice pump with Tron. This was about 1 year ago, approximately, up to that 15, 16 cent mark because of the DeFi. The DeFi went absolutely nuts. There was tons of people flooding over there. And it has all of the makings for something that should do very well. The question, and going back to what Ben had to say, I do kind of agree because of the fact that if it would have been doing things better than everyone else already, and it had the developers and it had a really big game or two or something on there, it would have already happened, I think, right? And now there's a lot of competition. So this is the problem. You got Polygon, you got Solana, you got, Avalanche, you got all of these other, L2s and L1s that basically do the exact same thing. And it's like, well, what makes Tron that much more special? And also, like, why as a developer would you go over there when you see the price, you kind of see what's been happening, and yeah, there just might be a better solution for you. And so that's my problem with it. From a user standpoint, though, you want cheap fees, you want it to be fast, and you want a pretty decent user experience. That's been my take with Tron. And honestly, like, there was some money over there. Looking back at the DeFi and the pump that it did have up to 15 cents. I remember buying it at like 2 or 3 pennies, and it went to 15 cents. I was like, that's a nice 4 or 5x in a crypto coin that's in the top 100. So I don't know. Something tells me that like it could surprise you, but is it gonna like moon and go absolutely crazy? No, I'd probably I'd probably lean towards what Ben was saying. It may have had its day in the sun. No pun attended.
Okay, that was solid. That was solid. We'll give you We'll give you an extra point for that one. That was a good pun. Now, not bad at all. Mac, with the incubator, you really dive down into the technicals of these projects, and by all accounts, Tron seems fine. CryptoFace likes it. Joe Parys described the user experience. It was pretty friendly to a newer user. Who's just getting into crypto. Seems to be fast. Seems to be cheap. Why isn't it seeing that kind of resurgence? Do you think it's just, is it just network effect? It's, everyone's just over there, so we're not going to build on it? Or is there, maybe people behind the scenes working on some things?
My thought on a lot of layer ones not named Ethereum is, what is their exact competitive advantage? In a sense that if they all have the same exact competitive advantage, then there really isn't any competitive advantage to the rest of its peers, because you're competing against market share against Ethereum in terms of a true user base. So if Tron's competitive advantage is the same as Solana's, is the same as Cardano's, like, and sure, there are nuances, but if they are cannibalizing each other for the same user base, then how do they distinguish themselves amongst the competitors? And it's an open question, and I think a lot of them are doing pretty interesting things, like Polkadot, this like layer 0. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on amongst these competitors, but there's a lot of them, which is the challenge, right? It's a competitive space. So because there's building, and you need to make, and Joe had said it right, the user experience great, right? I think that's something where a lot of these layer ones can compete against Ethereum. MetaMask is clunky. The user experience there is pretty poor, in a sense that my mom couldn't figure that out. My grandma definitely couldn't figure that out. My sister couldn't figure that out. So if you can create a user experience and a user interface such that those people can, maybe that's how you then get on board these people. So I think ironing that out is really a great step in the right direction, but it's easier said than done, right, in this very, very competitive space.
Yeah. How do you distinguish yourself from those competing coins? I guess they could say we have a smart founder. Our founder sold the top. Did yours? I don't know. I don't think that really, that doesn't quite equal Nike just do it. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. All right, Tom Crown, we're going to end it with you here. I brought the chart back up. This is the 1 year. But I want to show you this 3 month when it pulls up here. This is a little bit scary. This is the 1 year. Check out that 3 month. I mean, we are in a downtrend, and we're in a downtrend for sure. Is there anything here that the technicals are telling you? Like, I mean, as someone who's, doesn't care about the tech, they just want to, maybe spot trade something, get in and out of a position. What's this chart telling you here?
Well, I actually pulled up something here I wanted to share with you, because you're asking me a similar question to what I answered before. If we put these charts next to each other, they are virtually identical. And this is Tron and XRP from 2018 to today. I almost can't tell them apart. If it didn't have cents on the side there, I wouldn't know which is which. So I really have the same answer here. We have those descending highs, kind of the flat bottom going on. Something tells me they're going to move in the same direction whenever they move. But to speak to Tron, so I'm not the biggest Tron guy. I do actually like their user experience that I've seen. They had great wallets going back years now. That was an advantage for some time. But what Tron really does offer right now is people are using stable coins more and more. than they've ever been. This has been growing exponentially since it started. And Ethereum's fees have been strangling the use of stablecoins. If I want to send you $100, I'm not going to spend $50, $100 to do that. It doesn't make sense. And so we're seeing the exodus of those transactions to other chains, and Tron's one that people are using to make cheap transactions. I think that's Tron's value right now, really as maybe a stablecoin facilitator. But yeah, those charts, man, are the same. It's wild to me.
I mean, we've seen the volume of stable coins. I mean, that could sustain a coin for, many years. So who knows? All right, well, that is all we got time for. And it looks like the sun is shining bright on Joe, even though it's dark at his apartment complex or wherever you're at. It looks like Melrose Place. So, Joe, you go ahead. You won the show. Please leave us with some wise words and some parting thoughts.
Well, thanks again, DEEZY, Ben, and the entire Bit Squad. Smash up that like button, guys. Really appreciate that. And MacNCheeasy, Tom, you guys are amazing. Make sure to follow everybody below. Really looking forward to being back on the show. And yeah, the sun is set here, but I don't think it's going to set on cryptocurrency as a whole. So shine bright, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
And if you want to shine bright, look no further than Frankie's candle. He's streaming right now. So that's all we got time for today, Bit Squad. DEEZY out.